What's up, Sugar Muffins? I'm back. Women Crush Wednesdays starting in 6 minutes. I'm waiting for Stacy to join me so we can make sure that the interwebs work. Dean Edwards, I found out from him because he does a live show on Instagram. I messaged him to find out. I asked him, how do you do it? Because the last 2 times, Jackie and Paula were kind of cutting in and out on the internet. So I'm going to try to do it this way. And hopefully we won't miss out. So Stacy Prussman is joining me tonight. Stacy is a comic. She's been a comic for a while. She's been on Artie's podcast, Artie Lane's podcast. She's done stand-up all over the country. She's been doing it a while. But she's running for New York City mayor. So that is just awesome. Just fucking awesome. I think it's amazing because never has there been such a time like this. She probably would just keep doing stand-up forever and never even know that she could run for mayor. But this past year has caused people to realize that they can just do what they want, whenever they want. So, let's see. I'm waiting for some people to join. I'm waiting for Stacy to join me. Let's see what she says. I got her questions here because I'm starting to get very organized now. My assistant sends the pre-questions, the pre-interview, and then I read over them. And then we're going to keep it a little more structured. Paula Bell was awesome and wild last week, but I want to see if I can keep this more structured so that when I eventually get the studio, I can do it and have it very professional, but also chaotic, because that's my favorite thing. Controlled chaos. That's what stand-up is. Let's see. Let's see if anybody's joining me. Let's go on Facebook. Facebook. Stacy. You gotta ask me to join. Stacy, gotta ask me, request to join now. Do you know how to do that, Stacy? Stacy, do you know how to, you have to put in a request. Is there a thing that's saying request to join the video? Huh? Okay. Is this Stace? Can you hear me? There we go. Ah! Stace? What happened? Did I read you? There you are! Gorgeous girl!
How are you, beautiful? Long time no see.
What are you doing?
I'm drinking coffee, talking to you. How are you?
I'm fucking awesome. I'm excited. We're going to wait a little while. We're going to, for 3 minutes, I just want to make sure that, oh, look at you.
You look
You're
beautiful.
like a professional.
I haven't seen you forever.
I know, since we did that thing up in the Compound Media Girls up in Westchester.
We did that wonderful show. We had all women show. It was a great lineup, great time.
We killed.
We
always kill. The
always
girls
kill.
always kill. Doesn't that always happen when you do an all-woman show?
Yeah, and everyone was like just so supportive, and it was really, and it's just so great to be around your peers, and I miss that. I miss my female friends, my female comedian friends really badly. We only see each other on Zoom.
We take it for granted, right?
Yeah, we had when you don't see anyone for a year, it's been like a year, right? It's like, I can't believe, I see people here and there, but not really. I see Vanessa and a few other people, but that's about it. Vanessa Hollingshead, shout out. But, I haven't seen anybody except for a Zoom call here and there. So it's
and I was just thinking how people don't really know how we meet. We all got together. Chrissy put it together, Chrissy Mayer, and then we all met at Grand Central and took the train up. Me, you, Karen, Christy,
Margolis, Karen Feehan, Chrissy Mayer, Sue Costello, Joanne Oschinski.
Oh yeah.
Anne Marie Castillo.
Oh yeah.
And Wendy and Wendy.
Yeah.
My brain, I know Wendy, my brain's doing this, like, I get the first and the last. I know Wendy so well, my brain just, Wendy.
It'll come to you. I forget too. She's on Instagram. I watch her every day. All right, so We're going to get started soon, but thank you for filling out the questions because I'm getting very professional here.
No, it's great. I love questions. I like preparation. I've been, running for a campaign. You have to prepare everything. your speeches, your debates, your policy. People are asking you questions. You know, it's funny because like I did Kevin's show and like it was so much fun. I love
Who's
Kevin
Kevin?
Brennan. Kevin Brennan. You
Oh
know.
God, was he respectful? Did he at least let
Oh,
you
I
say
love.
your
Yeah,
policies?
I know. He was Kevin. You know, it's Kevin.
Yeah.
And he's like, you have to, you know, you're gonna be the mayor of Funtown. I'm like, and he's like, you have to be, you know, he's so funny. I love Kevin. And Gino, it was Gino, me, Adam, obviously the producer, and Gino Bisconti and me, and it was crazy. It was typical old time crazy, you know. So
But they don't understand. Like, oh, I'm gonna introduce you in like 1 minute because I want to tell everybody what you're doing. But they don't understand. Like doing comedy and then you try to do something else. Doing the something else is like nothing. Like you're way ahead of the game because you're gonna be able to handle so much pressure.
it's like hecklers. It's like basically being hecklers.
Kevin was right about what he called you, Sue. Oh, shut up. So stupid. Kevin
He loves calling everyone bad names, but he's a love. He's one of my favorite people, actually. Kevin Brennan. He actually
he does it. He does it in the beginning of the show, like when we did Chip Chipperson. As soon as the sound went on, he called me a cunt. I'm like, stop being so low.
That means he loves you. It means he loves you.
No, it's so low level. He doesn't have the chops. He has to like fight dirty. He has to do it right then, so nobody really knows what's going on. And then he thinks I'm gonna go, ah! I'll fight him.
I wrote something. I was on Cominc once, and I said, you know, I don't like to be called a bitch because it doesn't mean that I'm working hard enough. Bitch is like the weaker cunt. Then call me a cunt. At least I'm doing my job right. So
there you go. And if you just keep saying the word, eventually it'll lose all of its power.
It's like I feel like if you're gonna call someone a bitch, that doesn't really mean anything. But you call them a cunt, you're at least doing it well. So there you go. But that's my new campaign slogan. So I'm a
Sue tried to play it off, but she was mad. I love how these guys tell me how I feel. Sue tried to play it off, but she was mad. Same thing happened with Marin with my WTF. They're like, oh, Sue, Mark really got her there. I'm like, Mark edited the whole fucking thing. These guys got to get over their fucking blowhard fan. Like, they have such like an alliance to these guys. Right. These guys are fucking nothing. They can't do it with us chicks. So they have to edit it and they have to do tricks like call us a cunt before it comes on. So Joey Deuce fucking beat it. Stacy, you are gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
Sue's head was hot. She was steaming mad. You know, shut up, Joey. They're so goofy. They love to try to get us going. All right.
I don't care what people call me
welcome
names. I love
I'm going to introduce you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Women Crush Wednesdays. Okay, so I started the show 3 weeks ago because I want to give women a forum where they can just come on and say their piece, say what they want to say what they want to talk about. And it's turning into something amazing. It's turning into, now I'm bringing political people in. Now I'm bringing big, huge actresses in. Everybody wants to be part of it. We're booked out all the way through for like 3 months. Very exciting. I'm going to start Man Crush Wednesdays too, but not yet. We got to give the women the leg up, and then
we need it. You know,
right?
Thank God for people like Carol who did Women of a Certain Age, and that show took off. I remember it was just like a thought in her mind, and then she had 2 Showtime specials. It's amazing.
Carol Montgomery, right?
Yeah, Carol Montgomery. Yeah. Shout out to her. She's always been supportive of other women, of other people in general. What you're doing is amazing. You know, all my friends, Vanessa Hollingshead, Gina Savage, I'm going to name a whole bunch of people. Chrissy Mayer, you know, people are just helping each other. A-Marie Castillo. I can go on and on and on. So.
Yeah, they don't know. We're starting to come forward now. I like it. But more importantly, all right, I'm going to go into your stand-up career, but we got to tell people that you're running for New York City mayor. Because
I'm running. It's not a joke. It's not like a joke. People are like, are you joking? Are you doing it for your career? Like, I'm getting called like my prom date from high school and like rando people that I haven't spoken to. They're like, are you doing it for like your acting career? Are you being sticky like Stern? I'm like, no, I'm running for mayor of New York City. It's not a joke. I have a total campaign. I have, I'm collecting funds. I have a campaign manager, finance man, everything is in place. Larry Sharp, a senior advisor. He ran.
Who's Larry Sharp? Who is it?
Larry Sharp was he ran for governor in 2018 Libertarian Party. He's an amazing human being, a genius. I love him. He's got his shit together and he's beyond his shit. I mean, he's got it together. He's what a New York needs actually as a governor. You know, he's what we need.
All right, but here I want us to talk through because I want this to be very clear. I want people to start respecting you for what you're doing because people will say that to you. They're going to come at you and say you're doing it for your for money. They always say that to women. She's doing it for money. She's doing it for a career. You're like, no, actually, I'm doing something. I'm running for mayor. So I was saying before you came on that this is a time in the world where it's never happened before that you probably would have kept doing stand up forever, right? It's a
right. I've been touring, going to different. like going to club for a weekend, a bar show, running around the city, which I love doing. I've always loved doing that. I love the arts. I was an actress like you were. I'm an actress. I've been doing acting my entire life since I was a little kid. I was in theater for 10 years before I even did stand-up comedy professionally. So I was always in the business, so to speak. And as I got older, I got more involved politically. I was always an activist for animal rights, for mental health advocacy.
Mental health. What have you done for the mental health? I feel like you told me a lot about
that.
Yeah,
I was a speaker for many years for eating disorder awareness and addictions, and also then I went into reducing stress and anxiety because I had panic disorder for many years. So I started dealing with that as well through my speaking. And I found out so many other people have that same issue, anxiety, and, which goes with depression and all that. So I started speaking on that and how to create a life that's less stressful and more productive. So
I want to bring you back because I want to really set it so that people really hear what you're saying, because this is what I'm seeing, the big picture here. I'm seeing how everything that you've done up to this point is going to lead to what you're doing. So the activism and the comedy and the experience and the acting and the ability to handle the tension is going to help. This is why people should stop paying attention to you running for mayor in New York City. That's what I think. And I also think you should never underestimate anyone, because when people underestimate you, it's usually when you sneak in and win. So first of all, I want to start with the eating disorder. So you'd go and speak. And so I just want a little practicality of how you would help people, because I know lots of people struggle with that. But right now, because of the pandemic, people are struggling even more because of that. I've heard people talk about food, alcohol, and some people even talking about cutting.
Cutting is a huge, it relieves stress. Cutting goes a lot with eating disorders and other mental illnesses, but it's a way to relieve stress for some people. It was never my thing. I suffered from an eating disorder as a young girl, and I've always been in recovery for it. Luckily, I wasn't triggered by this pandemic to relapse, but I know people who have, and I know people have relapsed back to drugs and alcohol as well, because you're stuck alone. And one of the ways to get sober or to be free of addiction is to be with community. And once you take that away, you take away your community, your 12-step meetings, your church, your synagogue, your place of worship, and being around people, you lose, that support system. Thus, you can fall back into addiction if you don't have the right support system. And being lonely is a one way to really be back into addiction. And plus the stress of financial, not having your career, if you're a comedian or a performer or anything, or any job that might have been taken away. So there's so many stresses that people were put under with no fault of their own, and now they have to deal with it alone. So just imagine. And
because it's not always about money either. It's about having a purpose.
Right.
Working hard, building your character, feeling like you're worth something, feeling like you're contributing. So just a little bit so you would go and you would speak about the eating disorders, and then people would be able to feel less alone and share, or how would that work?
I would go to mostly I went to colleges, universities, military academies.
Military is interesting because does it spike?
It was all men. It was the Coast Guard Academy. It was one of my first lectures I did. And I want to just give a shout out to Mikey DiStefano, may he rest in peace. He got me into it.
Oh, Mikey DiStefano. I did a thing for him. He was in NA, and he had me do like a convention for him.
Yeah, he was great. He's a great man. He got me into the speaking world. It blossomed into this whole speaking career, and it helped me get deeper into my recovery, and also helped me help other people, and I'll never forget him for that. So every time I go to the Stand Comedy Club and I see his like profile picture in their backdrop, I just like my heart melts. Anyway,
how they say that they can transfer addictions? I went and did this NA conference for him, and when I was waiting to go on stage, all the guys, they were so horny. They were so horny with me. It was disgusting. I was so disgusting. It was so gross.
Oh, sex addiction. And so one of the things that happens is, because in recovery for sex addiction, which I've been open about, is that if you have one addiction, like food and sex go together because they're both ids, or if you stop using drugs, then you start wanting to have sex or date or look at porn or whatever, you go into that addiction. It's different for everybody. So a lot of times people get sober one way. It's like a balloon. It's like you move the air, and the air, it just goes into the other side. So you have to kind of work all your addictions at once, because you don't realize what addictions will come up once you stop. Like
they would, Stacy, I'm telling you, they were so horny and so trying to go out with me. I don't think they knew I was the comic. I got on stage and I was like, you motherfuckers get a lot of balls. I'm like, you're trying to go out with me and have sex with me, and you don't have a full mouth of teeth between you. Stacy, they were like, they did not know
They're
what
the
to do with
best
themselves.
audiences. NA is the best.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, they're the best. Sober audiences, they will laugh.
But it was the truth too. I was like, these guys got a lot of balls.
You
They
don't got a
just
front truth between all of you.
from doing the drugs. I made them
Right.
laugh though. And then I totally won them over. Okay, so that's what you do. You go out and talk about the food addiction, and then it got turned into stress. Because so
I did
I don't.
both. I did a double lecture. I started doing two and doing
All right, I
workshops.
don't want to skip over the fact that you said that there were a lot of men in the military, because I think that's something that men don't talk about at all. Is the
Well,
speed.
this is interesting. I was terrified. I was speaking maybe like a year. At that point, I wasn't like a seasoned speaker. I hadn't been doing a lot of colleges yet. And they asked me to come to the Coast Guard Academy in Connecticut. And I was literally terrified because I was like, oh my God. Everyone was required. The entire academy was required to attend. And so I was very nervous. My ex-husband at the time filmed it. I thought it's online if you want to see it, like bits and pieces.
Tell people how to see it online. How do we see it online?
Go by YouTube and you'll see it. One of my lectures. It's one of my. I don't have a lot on YouTube, so you can't miss it.
Okay.
There's one compilation of me speaking, and then there's one specifically that one.
Okay.
And it was 1,000 cadets. And at the end, first they didn't want me to come because the women, like the 20% women or whatever it was, 10% women wanted me to come because they were, And then the huge. The main guy, who was an older gentleman that didn't believe there were eating disorder issues in the military, tried not to have me come. But then when I did come, all these men were talking to me, crying about their eating disorders. And it was like, I was there for 2 hours speaking to them personally. It was like, I couldn't believe it. It was the most enriching, most exciting situation I've ever been in, because I was like, oh, I'm not going to, no one's going to care. And then all these people came to share their stories I think that it really did make a difference. And I never forgot that. At the end, I got a standing ovation and they gave me a little plaque and I still have it. And I was very proud.
Okay, so you just said, okay, you started it out by saying that we're locked down, we can't communicate, we can't get community to help each other. And then you're talking about how you were doubting yourself. What do I have to offer? What do I have to offer? It's men. We're judging like what they got us doing nowadays, judging, fighting through gender, fighting through race, fighting for whatever instead of coming together. And when you got up and you talked about your own weaknesses, these men felt the wall fall down and they were allowed to reveal their own.
Yes.
So you have the empathy factor in terms of being a leader as well. So you have the comedy, you have the experience of being able to withstand Kevin Brennan, and you have
and Artie Lang.
Oh God, yeah, Artie. Yeah. Okay, so all right, so you did that. So I want to. So tell me a little bit about the stand-up. I have these questions I'm going to ask you in a minute, but I want to know how you got into stand-up.
Okay, it's a weird story. So I said you were already doing stand-up when I came in for a while. I came in a little later in my life. I was like in my early 30s. Most people started in their 20s. I was doing acting, just plain acting, no stand-up. And so I had been friends with random comedians over the years. Like, well, Jackie Mason used to come to the show, Grandma Sylvia's funeral I did. And he was like, you should open up for me. I'll do it. You should open up for me. I was like, all right, what do you mean open up for you? I didn't know what that meant back then. I thought he meant my legs, which he did. But I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So I was afraid. And then one of my other friends, Neil Feinberg, who used to be on Howard Stern, he did Colt 40 Feinberg. He did like a Chris Rock impression. He's like, you should do stand-up. And then Rick Shapiro was the one who got me in. One of my best friends, shout out to Rick, love him. He said, you should do stand-up. I'll help you. And then I just started doing it. And me and Neil actually opened a room up at the time. And then I just started running my own rooms. And then I just started running around the circuit like everybody else.
So you have organizing ability too. So you have organizing ability. You have speech ability of giving speech. This talking oratory.
When I'm not
oratory ability.
Yeah.
You have empathy.
I do have empathy. I can say that.
And you have passion.
I have passion. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you have balls, because anybody who's going to say they're going to run for New York City mayor after being a comedian has lots of balls.
People think yeah, right, exactly. It's like they think it's, oh, you're doing this so you can get more gigs. I'm like, no, I'm not. Actually, I turned down some stuff, whatever. I don't want to get into it, but I had to turn down stuff because of, the run. So.
But that's interesting, because I'm very, very fascinated by that, what's gone on with the pandemic and how everything's been taken away, but the negative thinking is still very strong there. Like the fact that you're just trying to do this. Like, who cares what you're doing it for? Why would that be the first thing that people come to think? Why are they so, why is our brains are so negative now because of the way that the media's trained us, because of what we've been fed with the propaganda, with everything, that it sounds to me like you're trying to do something different, which is very hard to do because we turn into, this is my own personal opinion, but what's going on is we turn into like a gang, like what happened in high school, what happens in a family. If somebody tries to be different, it's not, I don't think it's human nature. I think it's human nurture. I think we've been nurtured to be this way. So they tend to, that's what makes the greatest people in my eyes, is somebody who can break through that. If you can break through everybody just right away telling you you're doing it for your career, you're doing it for this, it's like, if you can even get any empathy out past that, it's a miracle. It'll be a miracle that you can even get anything out past that, because people's brains are so negative now.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not scary. It is scary. Tomorrow I'm doing Friday I'm doing my first debate at this very specific place. I think the Democratic Club in the Bronx. Oh no, yeah, the Bronx. And I'm scared. I've never done a debate with all the candidates going to be there. So it could be Yang, it could be, Eric Adams. I don't know who's going to be there. So I'm going to be talking about education, parenting, challenges in that world, and I did do substitute teaching, you know that, right? So I did that. Yeah. I've also spoken in high schools, and and I've also taught job interviewing skills in high schools and public high schools. So I know the challenges that people face in the education system. I know teachers. I mean, our education system is a disaster right now. It's a literal disaster between the pandemic and what was going on before. So that needs to be revitalized. And we have to put more emphasis on education, because if we have, children and students that aren't educated and learning skills, life skills in school, because they're not taught at home, you need to learn how to do a job interview, do a resume, a trade. I believe in trade schools. Not everyone is like, you could be a smart student and also have a trade. I agree. It's like we need to teach students how to live, life, not just like
checking accounts, how to handle their bank accounts, how to do their laundry. Yeah.
I mean, I was a theater major in college. Okay. And so when I left college, I didn't know, they didn't teach us the business of acting. They just taught us Shakespeare and, how to do a monologue, but I didn't know how to like go to meet an agent or to get a headshot. I had to learn that afterwards through my manager, actually did my first resume. So actually, I was with my first manager was Tom and Genio.
Oh yeah.
Back in when I was really young. So I didn't know how to do any of that. I kind of made one up that looked terrible, but we didn't learn that. And that's so easy to teach young students that are going into the theater world or the acting world. Just like the same thing they should teach people in business, how to go into the business world and what you need to learn about that. I mean, they teach you the school stuff. They need to teach you the life stuff. And there's no reason why.
The reason why, my opinion is the reason why that is because you're talking about pragmatic, really helping people move forward. I mean, you're talking about what they did in other countries where they brought people up into the middle class. You're talking about trying to actually help people. And somebody just wrote the teachers union is killing education. It is my opinion that it's the corruption in the unions that's killing everything. It's the corruption everywhere. It's the top tier are the ones that get everything. And if anybody tries to fight for the top tier sucks them in, and then they abandon the people. That's my personal opinion. And then I just lost. I wanted to make the other point. So the unions are what's called. And the way that they train us is what I was going to say. So you're talking about they're not giving you pragmatic living skills, because the purpose for me, is my opinion, is that we go to school, we go to college, we go everywhere for them to siphon money out of people, and also to just train you for the workforce. That's what they want to do. They just want to train you for the workforce.
But they're not even training you for the workforce. They're not even teaching you how to get into the workforce. That's the problem. Whatever workforce you get.
But I'm not talking about empowering people. I'm talking about breaking them down to know how to go to work 8 hours a day. Teaching them to sit in a classroom, teaching them to conform. That's what I mean by it. I don't mean to empower them.
Well, that's interesting you said that. I went to a great high school where we actually made our own schedules. We picked our own classes, what we interested us. We had to take the basic stuff, but we were able to take electives of things that interested us. So it was the John Dewey philosophy of education, which I want to bring into most of the schools in New York City, where kids can discuss issues openly and create conversation, which I think rather than just sitting and being like absorbing or trying to absorb information from a talking head, is to really connect and discuss these issues and discuss what's, different way of learning, basically.
Okay, so I'm going to bring you back to the exact, you just said that in the very beginning. You said how important community is. You said you organized by building the comedy clubs, by running, opening a comedy club. And now you're back to it again with the kids in school. So you're going right back to how important community is and conversation is. So that seems to be, I don't know if I'm helping you
Yeah,
any,
no,
but
you're
that's
right. It's
what's,
so important. I think that kids have been taught, like you said, just to sit there, listen, then get thrown in the workforce and be a
a
cog in
cog in the wheel.
cog in the wheel, right? And there's no exploration, so there's no innovation. That's why we don't have a lot. That's why we're stuck where we are. I mean, there is some innovation with some people, but there's not enough. It's
But
just
look how
not
hard
enough.
it is to be innovative. You're taking this as an opportunity. You're seeing the place is going to be a disruptor and possibly do something crazy and different that might never have done before. And everybody's poo-pooing. They're just saying like you're doing it. You're like, well, and then what I think psychologically could happen is you're trying to do it with your intentions, but what you would need is somebody to support you and be like, do it, because what you're doing is so outside the box. You would need more reinforcement, and if you're getting the negative reinforcement, who knows if that's not what people become because of the negative reinforcement.
Right.
I'm fascinated with this duality of what happens in the media, this gaslighting that happens in the media, and then people do it to each other, and that's like, who's going to ever get ahead if everybody's doing the same duality with you? They're not seeing what you really do, and they're knocking you down, and then maybe you start knocking down and acting that way. Like that's what the whole system is so inverted that nobody can see the truth nowadays. And
Right. We can't just, well, one of the things I learned, Sue, I think is so important, is just to keep going forward.
yes,
Keep doing what you do. Like with comedy, like people tell you, oh, you're not funny. Just keep doing, trying it over, keep doing it over. Like just do it over and over and over, and just keep your vision straight. I think that is how you succeed, and that is how you make a difference in the world.
right. But you also need this. I talked about this on my TV today. We need other people to be in relation with, or else we cannot grow, which is what you started this off with. Like me talking to you right now, I can see it. I'm not vested. I have no vested interest except to help you look as great as you can and to show people what you're doing.
Thank
And
you.
so I'm making the connections for you. And by us talking, it's going to help you when you go to your debate, because you're going to be like, oh, community. That's what I said. Sue guided me. Now I can do that. This is the
Right.
kind of community that will help people. But this negative thing that we're doing to each other is
not
no
working.
one's going to get better. We're never going to get better. It's like
Yeah, I mean, people are rebelling against not like a ghost in the room. It's like we need to sort of find a commonality and support, growth in any which way. We can't just keep, playing games. And a lot of people have a lot of free time right now, and their minds are going nutty. That's what I think is happening too. So,
and they're being fed a lot of this, that, and this. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. This one, oh, they're lying, they're not lying. It's too much. It's too much for people to handle.
too much at once. It's too much nonsense coming at you all at once. So, and then people are where we would be maybe doing shows or working or doing more things. We're now stuck in front of the TV or the radio or whatever, social media, where we'd be watching 1 hour a day, now watching 8 hours a day. So we're just bombarded with nonsense every day, 8, 9. Sometimes people have the TV on 12, 13, 14 hours a day until they go to sleep. So it's very hard. It's very hard to escape all the messages that are just coming through. It's always been like that. Hence, when I had an eating disorder, it was all the messages about body image. What's a nice body versus a nice night? It was that too.
And nobody really cares about that. That's what's so fascinating to me about the body thing, is that people care about your spirit. If you ask any men if we're supposed to be look a certain way for men they would rather you be a loving person to them. They really don't care about. So these messages, again, to keep us all uneasy, unsure of ourselves, shaky. So my point is, in order for you to get to where you need to go and really run for mayor, people need to kind of, we need to trust a little bit. We need to just trust a little. We need to just trust. And if you end up doing it for your career or whatever, who cares? But the fact that you wouldn't even be able to get there unless you got a little support. People can't get anywhere. They can't change. They can't change what's going on if everybody's pulling, which speaks to the teachers union, which speaks to all the unions. Nobody can get out to help people if everybody, even the people, are pulling the people back.
Right. People can't, we have to all come together. We're not going to be, well, it's also interesting. I see a lot of these, the best charity I've seen is people like pulling people out of the dirt. Like if a business is going under, everyone gives money. And I love to see that. Communities working to help communities.
But it's not sustainable. It has never been sustainable. It's like sometimes the community giving good, the business money can be throwing bad money over good. They think they're doing well, but throwing good money over bad because they need sustainability. Like you said, in the schools, they need a plan. You can't just throw money at somebody because we're human. If you throw money at somebody, they might have back rent that they don't want to pay because they want the money for now.
Right.
Or if you get a load of money together, a human being gets excited. That's why people kill themselves when they do the lottery. Like, we need more talk. We need to be able
People don't know how to manage money. We never taught that in school. I think that should be in high schools. Like, maybe junior high school might be a little young, but high school, I think, is a great way to, money management is so important because if you're not, this is interesting. Personal responsibility is one of my platforms because if you know how to not be in debt, as best you can, and you know how to manage your own money, that's a microcosm for the rest of the country. So you're financially sound, then your community might be financially sound, and then your state will be financially sound, thus your country will be financially sound.
But then again, back to the teachers union and back to the corruption. That's a great way to look at it. But if the corruption and the way that the system is set up to make people go against their own best interests, because when you just talked about your debt and everything, it reminded me of the housing crisis. The housing crisis was set up to hurt the people that they hurt. Right. It was set up to hurt poor people by playing games by Goldman Sachs to fuck them on their mortgages.
Right. That was horrible what they did.
And then Donald Trump was on Larry King telling them to go call their banks and renegotiate their mortgages. And I was sitting on my couch going, they're going to call the same bankers that just fucked them? It's not going to happen.
That was horrible. The housing crisis was a horrible. It wasn't as bad as this, but it was very bad. I remember that. Yes. Yeah.
And so the point is, like, you tell people, like, you should manage money, and people are like, what does that mean? Like, somebody just tricked me into my interest. I just signed a terms in agreement. You know how they make you do that real quick? You don't even know what you're signing. You'd have to have 14 lawyers.
It's a lot of little words on big papers, and you're like, what does this mean? We need to teach. I think we need to teach in school what does interest mean in credit cards. Everyone gets a credit card eventually, for the most part. So teach them how to manage credit cards.
And how to speak up and hold people accountable, and because it's just my opinion again that we were set in this two-way thing where the corporations are winning because they just expect us to take it, and we're taking it thinking, there's nothing we can do. We're just totally screwed every day. We're trying to stay above water, and there's nothing we can do. Even with the money. I know you've been really vocal on talking about the unemployment when it didn't come immediately in New York. That was a fucking horror show.
That was horrible. Well, that's the other thing I want to change. There's something I'm looking at. We're in a gig economy right now.
Yeah.
And we've always, people are not just one company person. They work different places or they work for themselves. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed in terms of unemployment as a whole, because sometimes you're off season and you're not eligible. So there's got to be a way where we can, either pay into our own privately or where it's affordable for gig workers to then get unemployment when if gigs get canceled or things like that. Mm-hmm. I remember that happened. How many times have the club closed? I remember doing Reading Comedy Club. I was going to make $1,000 and I needed that money for my rent. And Vic DiPotato was doing it the week before, and they just can't. They shut it down. This was 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. They just shut the club down, and I was like, "That's my rent. What do I do?" I couldn't get the money. It was 3 weeks. It wasn't right before. So, you could still book something. I'm like, no, I couldn't book something.
Right, because they book way out. And that happened to me with my China tour. I had a China tour booked. That's how I ended up going to Les Moonfest and doing my CBS deal. My China tour, they came to me. They wanted me to go and tour in China. They asked me 5 weeks, end of August to September. And the guy was pushing me, bullying me on the phone. And I knew I had to stand up to him to see if he would take it, because I couldn't go to China by myself with somebody bullying me. It wasn't going to happen.
No way.
No. And I set my boundary with him, and I said, don't talk to me like that. And he pulled the whole tour.
Wow.
And I talk about this a lot, about the financial abuse. If they can't get you sexually, they'll get you financially.
Tammy Pescatelli tweeted something. We have a vice president who's a woman, but I can't even make more than somebody on a weekend or something. She wrote something really funny about the injustice in comedy is unbelievable. The money is injustice. It's I can't even tell you. When I was with my ex-husband, they would give him the money for both of us, and that would drive me nuts. I'm like, no, that's my money. Even though whatever we did at home, but that's my check. they would give him my check and his check, or his cash. I mean, what was like? You can't do that. Like that was
Sexism.
like, it was so insulting to me.
But the
go
sexism,
nuts.
so everybody's like, oh, Kamala Harris is a woman vice president. I'm like, why isn't there a big deal about this? It's nothing. It was like not because, was it real? Was it really a woman who really made, like, I don't know. He picked her. She was trying to run for president. Now it's an old man again. I'm like, it's not a powerful woman just won presidency. The presidency. That's not happening. When that happens, then you can come talk to me.
Right.
And in terms of money, I was headlining in Vegas, and they paid the middle guy more than me, and I got his check by accident.
Oh wow.
After I already stood up for myself. And asked for more money, and he told me to fuck off, and I was like, all right. And then I saw his check. I went right on that stage and I said, that guy's getting paid more than me, and the crowd went fucking wild. I was like, I've had it.
Did they give you more?
Yeah, he gave me the money. Yeah, I know. But what used to go on is the secret abuse. We never used to say anything. And once I said it on stage and I saw that the crowd supported me, it hit me. I was like, oh, the crowd never knows. They just see us complaining. They don't know that I'm missing that middle step. Like you're talking about that middle step in school, like the middle part of the meat where we can have information to make educated decisions. Yeah, no, they didn't give me any educated decision. He just decided whatever the fuck he wanted.
Then I got tough. Then I was getting tougher with money. Like it got the opposite. I was like, really getting tough with money and payments with comedy. Did you do that? That happened in the later years. I was getting really tough. I was like, I felt like I had to because I got, fucked over so much. The first few years of 10 years of comedy, the last 8 years, 9 years, I was like, all right, no, I want this much money, or else I'm not doing it. Or you paid this person that, that's how I would start doing it. Carol used to tell me, Carol Montgomery was great with that. She hit me on the back a lot with that. So,
because the other thing that they do is they'll make a decision and then they'll make an agreement, and then they'll just decide that they don't want to do the agreement. They'll bully you out of it. That's the other thing they do.
Oh, really? Yeah, I make them sign everything. Started getting signatures and signs.
Oh, even if you get a signature, sometimes they still do the same thing. They bait, they switch, they cancel the show. They can't do this. Sue me. Do whatever you want. So in a good way, so now I want to get back to the mayoral race. Okay. So in a good way, as bad as everything has gotten, I do feel like because everything got so greedy and gross, things are collapsing, and it's a great time for you to come in and become a disruptor and ride the wave and do something different. Innovation, I think, is going to be so amazing right now. Once this, Joe Biden is the last of the old white men patriarchy. There's no doubt in my mind. Mark my words. Sign off if you don't like it. It just is. It's already changed. The day that a woman runs for president is going to be the day that everything gets better. There's no doubt in my mind. The day a woman wins.
We're ready for a female energy in the White House, definitely.
Yes.
Strong, female, smart energy that's, educated, obviously educated, able to be diplomatic, empathetic, but tough, and knows to make and able to make decisions. I think that's.
Well, I always say back in World War II, the women came in, went into the workplace when the men went to war. They raised the working wage. The men came back, got the working wage. The women went back in the kitchen. It's not going to happen this time. The women are not going back in the kitchen. It's over.
Women are doing great. I mean, I think women are doing great. They're doing great work.
Yes.
It's amazing. They're successful. And I think that it's going to get more. And we know, out of all the countries, I think we're one of the only countries that, I think there are other countries that are not even democratic and they've had female leaders. I don't know which ones, but maybe I don't know, other places that had, but England had Margaret Thatcher and, well, they're Democrat. I'm talking about Germany has that, what's her name? Markle.
Yeah.
Markle, whatever her name.
She even said, Markle even came out, she hates Trump, and she even came out and said that them banning him from Twitter was unacceptable. That woman who he treated like shit even said that they shouldn't have banned and ruined the freedom of speech. It's very interesting, all that's going on. And I've been saying it for a couple of years. I saw it. I saw all the innovation happening. I saw the women coming through. I saw the guys getting scared. I was like, what is happening here? And I'm like, oh, something good's happening, even though it's bad. It's appearing as bad. I didn't know a pandemic was going to happen, but I did see how it's like they were ramming that old patriarchy way. I had a conversation with the guy from Sirius. He wanted to do a radio show with me right before the pandemic. And I asked him, I said, what are you doing? So advertising has always been based on you get to the kids, get them hooked on your product, and then they're indebted to you for life. You open your refrigerator when you have your own kids, and you have the same thing you did when you were kids. That's how advertising works. I know that. That's how it's set up. And so I said to the guy, what are you doing about the millennials? They don't have any money. so they don't want things. They want experiences. How is the advertising world changing and growing to handle that? He goes, nobody cares about that. And in my head, I'm like, isn't that the whole way that advertising works? And he said, all people care about is blockbuster movies. And I just looked at him and I said, what happens if one day people don't go to blockbuster movies anymore? He goes, that'll never happen. 2 weeks later, smash cut, no more blockbuster movies. I was like, the ego. So I feel like it's a great time for you to come in because the ego is what this old energy, it's dying. It's just,
Right.
it's already dead. It's like the head of the snake is cut off. The snake is still shaking.
We're ready to emerge like the phoenix from the flame. Just come up and rise and, equality. I mean, that's been a big statement now. The Black Lives Matter movement not feeling that their lives matter. And, that whole thing has been huge. And to feel that way as a human being, that you don't matter, is a horrible thing to feel.
Well, I think that's what they're doing to the people who voted for Donald Trump. That's my personal opinion. I'm not making a political statement here. I'm saying you treat 74 million people like they don't have a voice and you get rid of them, it's going to cause a bigger problem. It just is. It's the same thing going around. And it's my opinion that I think it's going to turn into a whole class thing. I don't think it went from women to race. Now it's going to be class. It's going to turn into something.
It's a class thing. It's not, it's a financial, upper class, lower class. It's not rich. It's rich and poor now.
And they want to make it gender and they want to make it race. And it's not. It's about the money. And I always say on my show, it's never about the money. People always say it's always about the money. I'm like, it's never about the money.
Follow the money.
Follow the money is correct, but it's never about the money.
And I followed the money, and I followed the indiscretions. All I did was have to look at certain things, and I knew that things were not right because I followed the money. They do that in every FBI case, every CIA. All I do is where the money came from, where it's going, and they can solve a lot of crimes that way.
Yes.
Follow.
But I'm not saying I agree with follow the money. I'm saying anybody who tells you it's always about the money is probably picking your pocket. No, it's about power and it's about control. And they tell you it's about the money, so then you go after the money. Kanye says that. He's like, they put you on the road so that you have all the sex and all the girls and all the adulation.
Ego.
And meanwhile, they're stealing your money in the back. He's like, we got to stop with that ego and thinking like when they tell you one thing, it's like it's not about that. It's about power and control. And when they power and control you, they get the money. But it's because they want to control and have power over you. That's what's going on.
And the one thing about running is that you need to raise money. Like you need to raise money. You get matching funds. It doesn't go in my pocket. It goes to my campaign. And like, that's really hard to do. You have to raise money. So for every certain amount of money, I get like matching funds from the city so I can have a real campaign. Now I'm fighting against like Yang, who has billions of dollars or millions. I think he's a billionaire or close to it. He's very wealthy. So I don't have the Democratic Party. I'm running Libertarian, so I don't have the party support. I have my party support, God bless. But I don't have that support, a massive amount. So I need.
Somebody said you should be the chief minister of your country. I don't know if he's talking to me or you, but he said that to us.
Thank you. I don't know what that is, chief minister. We have a president, but thank you.
Okay, so now I want to get to the questions. Well, first of all, I want to know where they can donate, where they can send you money if they want to donate.
Go to Prussman for Mayor. My name.
Prussman for Mayor.com,
and there's a donate button. There's a volunteer button. We have, everything is set up. We have a great website. My policies are getting put on every day as we speak. So I have basic policies, and then I have a Prussman reopening the city plan, which is a safe way to open the city up so we can get back to work, get back to businesses. Clubs could open up, comedy clubs can open up, so on and so forth. I'm not an anti-masker. I think masks by choice, but I believe it's a form of respect that I wear a mask to respect your health. Because if I'm carrying it and I'm asymptomatic, I don't want to give you my disease. That's how I believe in it.
Right.
I'm very about self-respect and respecting your neighbor. And that's how I run my platform. So I'm not like, my freedom is taken away. I'm like, if it protects one person from not getting sick, that's how I feel. I don't feel like my freedoms are taken away. I feel like I'm doing it out of respect for you and vice versa. And I look at it that way. So my plan is based on self-respect, on respecting your neighbor, but opening up and being viable city again, vibrant, and also to have fun again. New York needs to be fun again.
And have humor.
And have humor.
We need to laugh.
And I think, you know what was weird? Like obviously small businesses is obviously a huge platform of mine. But what was very interesting, and you would appreciate this, and I don't support McDonald's because I'm a vegetarian, but I do use McDonald's as on the road for coffee and whatnot. And the McDonald's on West Third Street by the Cellar and by all those clubs closed down. The one that was by the
Oh yeah, yeah.
so
A
they
couple of
can't,
them did.
and it was right by 8 different stations, 8 different train lines,
Yeah.
a bus line, a basketball court. If McDonald's can't survive the pandemic, how could a mom and pop business survive the pandemic? And they served a purpose for that community, because not only did they serve like the people that were drunk and hanging out and the homeless, they had the dollar menus for people who were impoverished and couldn't afford food. So where are those people going to go? I mean, so it's actually everything served, and that McDonald's actually served its purpose. And I use that as an example.
That we need to bring what, McDonald's back, or the
no, that if they can't survive in New York City, if they can't survive in a prime location that served their community in a way, and they have the dollar menu for homeless people and for the drunk people coming from the bars and all that stuff all that stuff. How could a mom and pop store survive in that community?
But that's interesting, because that's what you were talking about the unemployment in the very beginning, when they weren't getting the people the unemployment because they never had a plan B for the humanity. My friend, who is a brilliant documentarian, she went to Oxford. She's brilliant. She was freaking out when that happened, when the unemployment was not available to people right away when this happened. People needed to eat. Like, I keep saying that. I'm like, people need to eat. Like, it makes me mental. I'm like, we need to eat to survive. It's not a luxury. We need to have water. Like, what? We need to start leveling humanity. My friend, she pointed out to me, like, because I have so many brilliant minds around me, that I see things that I didn't even see. She said the people that didn't have a lot of money had the burner phone, like the phones that they would pay, per. They put $50 on it or whatever. They were calling unemployment, and the calls kept getting dropped, and they were taking the money from their phones. So now they were losing money because they couldn't call. And I was like, oh, she called.
It was the whole thing. It was a whole mess. And and to get SNAP, it takes forever for people to get food stamps.
And how much do they give people for food stamps in New York? Do you know how much they allot now, or do you know?
I think it's somewhere about $190 to $200 for one individual
a month.
Yeah.
In New York City.
That pays for 20. That's like $25 a week maybe, and then for 2 people, I think it's double. I don't really know the exact numbers, but I think it's about a double for 2 people. But still, it's still not enough money, but it's better than nothing. But to get that it takes a while too. It has to go through the system, and then you can't get it so fast. Especially none of the workers were working in the offices because of the pandemic, so people couldn't even get their food stamps or their social services. So everything was just stopped, because we were just in this pandemic where people weren't in the offices, and people were not being serviced. So it was really a hard situation.
And the gig workers, us gig workers, like that. I'm glad you're going in and you're going to try to fix that, because that's insane. You can't.
We're not people aren't company men anymore. It's not like, I go into a company, I'm working 50 years at so and so, insurance company. People work, they own their own companies, they do different things. It's not the same thing. The average New Yorker is not a company man dependent on one person for their income.
We were never respected anyways. We never had a union. We were never respected, even though
we tried to. They never let us do it, though. The comics, they never really let us have a union.
Because like I said, that somebody would sell out. Somebody would go work in the clubs for $5 instead of the $75 that we were trying to get. Or Russ and Ted that ran it. They're the ones that got all the spots, and then they shut the union down. That's the problems with all the unions. They got all the spots they needed in the city.
Well, they were doing fine. They didn't have to worry about, But I think that we could have at least maybe hopped on equity, or probably SAG-AFTRA maybe.
Why haven't they included us in any of that? Don't even get me started on SAG.
Unless you're doing a filmed show, it doesn't matter. Unless we're doing TV or film, we don't apply to that union. We're a cabaret, so it's a different world, right? So I'm SAG-AFTRA, so it doesn't. To me, if they had a comedy division or something, or even actors.
But even the Broadway actors right now, the whole Broadway, everybody's out of work. Everybody's out of work. All of them, the ushers, everybody's out of work. And it's like, what do they think? How do they think people are gonna? I mean, they're helping now, but how long did it take for them to fight to get even the $300? It's like all those months went by.
But think
the
about
gig workers get the minimum. The gig workers get the minimum unemployment, like nothing.
I know.
Not even ability. Not even you couldn't even live off of it.
No, you couldn't. Like $182 a week. That's what all you get. Yeah, I know. And also the other issue is that. So I was also thinking about this. So let's say your rent is like $3,000 or $4,000. Let's say you're a Broadway actor and you make about $2,000 a week. 2 to 3. I don't know. You know, you may be in the show for a few years, so you may be making $2,000 to $3,000 a week. Now you're
no reason to believe that you're not going to work. There really isn't a reason for you to think
right.
that
And
you're
then
not going to work.
Right. So let's say, and you like the show's closed all the time, but you can get it on the show, or you can go on the road, whatever, and or you do your day job, which might be in a restaurant.
Or there's something else you can do to get some money. There's something you can do, right?
So your side job is gone. So now,
or you can borrow money from somebody, but those people don't have any money either.
Exactly, your castmate, the star of the show. So let's say your rent is $3,000 a month. Now, let's say you've been in the show for about 2 years. You have a little bit of savings, but you're kind of living a little large. So now you've been unemployed, right? So at first you get the $600. Now you're maybe just making ends meet. Then we had all those months where like now you don't have enough money. You went through your savings
behind the eight ball, yeah.
Right. So now you're behind, even though you might seem like getting $1,000 a week is good, but now you're really behind. You really can't afford your lifestyle. Now you have to move out of New York because you can't. Your show's closed. You now went through your savings. You don't want to go through your retirement. So those people are really messed up too. The people that were in the middle.
And the way that they play politics with it is disgusting. The way that they play politics with people with their livelihood is. I'm fascinated to see what really actually happens now. To see what
they really need to do a good stimulus package for people. It's not fair. It's like it was no fault of anybody. It wasn't like I was irresponsible and I didn't show up.
No, that's what's so infuriating. That's what's the most infuriating thing.
And my secondary jobs, and my third jobs, and my fourth jobs. It's like, and everyone's podcasting, and you can't really make that much from podcasting. They really and people. How do we get back from that? I was lucky. I was very careful with my money. For the most part, but it's scary. You don't know.
And also you do your whole career. It's not like you did it just a couple of times. It's like it's your whole career.
My whole career. It's like
your whole life, and you're like, oh, okay, I want to do my career now.
I had one Zoom audition. It was.
But look at you. You're running for mayor.
Yeah, I'm running for mayor. It's like it's not even a job. I mean, it's a job, but you don't get paid for it. So it's like you just have to show up and talk. So. And I'm still. But it shows
it shows that you're not a victim. I mean, I tell you, if you want somebody to be your boss or take care of you or run something for you, get a female comedian. I'm telling you, get a female comedian. We have fucking been shit on so badly and continued on that we can do anything. We should run for president.
No one gets it. We think we're blabbing about it. It's not true. We've been shit on. It's not. We're not just being bitchy. We pummel through it. We do it anyway.
And continue on.
And we show up and we go on stage and we do our job and we fight tooth and nail, and you know what? And it pays and
you're running for mayor. I'm starting my own TV network. We're just keeping on going.
We keep going. Yeah.
Out of nowhere. We have nothing. We don't know. We're just going to keep going.
We just keep.
Is Stacy a Democrat? Oh, everybody wants. Democrat.
I'm a libertarian.
No, she's a libertarian.
So
all right, I want to get to the questions that I asked you because I really want to find this out. So this is the Women Crush Wednesday. These are the women's questions that I'm going to do at the end of every show because now it turned out to the end. So let's do it. Okay, so the first question that I sent to Stacy, the pre-question was, when in your career do you first remember a man getting preferential treatment because of his gender? I want you the first memory that came to you. And your answer was, I remember when I was at my grandma Sylvia's funeral, the men were treated better than the women. It was in the mid-90s. Tell me, how is that? How are the men treated better at the funeral?
Well, I'm sure it was earlier than that, but I wanted to use that as an example. Well, this is interesting. So some of us it was a union house, it was Actors Equity, and some of the men weren't union and some of the women weren't union. Like the younger men and women weren't union, and like half the cast was union. It was a very big cast. They couldn't afford to give everyone union, but they didn't negotiate with Equity. But anyway, long story short, so they were threatened if we were to go get a union card, we get fired. And if some of the men went and got a union card and they didn't get fired, and we were all equal in the cast. So
so you tried to get union and they fired you, and the men tried.
Like if I went and did another show and became union or got because I was eligible, I would not be able to work in the show. But some men went ahead and did it anyway, and they didn't get fired.
That's interesting. A guy interviewed me about what I'm doing with my career, and he's like, "So you remind me of my grandmother." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "She tried to start a union in her business, and she had the label on the front of her hat, and they made her take the label off, and she put it underneath the brim."
Oh,
She was like, "Fuck you, I'm gonna still look at it."
okay.
Yeah, they're
That's
like, "Who do you think you are?" Oh, that's
yeah.
okay. So when you were doing the
And
Broadway
that was,
show,
and the pay differential and the pay differential was so big, you
they
know.
literally pay us less. I don't know why people don't get that.
And we
It's
let
like they
and
pay
we
us
were
less.
sexualized, and we were sexualized. They were constantly having us go to dinners with other producers
Yeah.
and famous older actors. We were like pretty much prostituted without having to, we weren't
Yeah.
we didn't have sex with people that we didn't want to, but they would go to dinner with this one. Like once they made me go to dinner with Robin Leach. Okay, so
Oh,
that was at 20. I was 25 years old, Sue.
don't even
25.
don't get me started.
And he was, I was 25. I didn't know any better. The producer's like, yeah, go. It's good for the show. So
I did a movie one time, and all the girls in the movie I saw them when I was going to like down to dinner, and they were all dressed up, and they were going out with Miramax for dinner, and I cried so hard. I was so sad. I was like, I'm not pretty enough. They don't want me to go out to dinner with them, and everybody's like, no, Sue. They were afraid you'd fucking open your mouth. I'd be like on the phone.
yeah.
All right, the next one is, when is the moment in your childhood that you saw boys get treated better than? So that was your career. When in your childhood do you remember making a connection that the boys got treated?
Junior high school. They were the kid. They were able to like touch us. Like I remember, like they would touch our boobs in the hallway, and like that was fine. And we were afraid to say something. It wasn't like if they did that now, what they did to us, they would be in jail or suspended for like ever. It would be a whole different world. Yeah.
But that's interesting how you said they were able to do it and we couldn't say anything. That unspoken agreement that we don't talk, because that's why when I was in Vegas and I got on stage and said the guy got paid more than me, it was the first time I broke that unspoken thing. I was like, and the bouncer, they sent the bouncer to get me off the stage. I was like, fuck you. I'm fucking saying what I want to say. He don't scare me. And then when I saw the crowd support me, I'm like, oh, that's what they're trying to get us from is like you said, unifying and talking to each other. And that's what's happening.
I was afraid to talk about that for a long time. Like our junior high school years were rough. Like they were very rough. I think I saw you on the show, and it seemed like yours was pretty rough too.
So funny. The guy who was just busting my balls about Kevin Brennan just said he saw my show, and he goes, it was amazing. I'm like, yeah,
I saw your show, and I related to it a lot. I told you that when I saw it. I was like, I totally went through that.
I think a lot of people have. I think men, like you said, the men in the military had eating disorders. I think people struggle a lot more than what we're pretending. I think we have a lot more in common than we don't. And they're trying to do this with this gender and race stuff. And it's like, no, let's find the commonality. Let's see. Because who knows, the boys, and I'm not defending this, but the boys are egged on to do that kind of behavior.
We probably grew up in similar, you grew up in Boston, I grew up in Brooklyn. It was probably similar in class-wise where I grew up. Donald Trump was my landlord growing up.
Who was?
Donald Trump was my landlord.
He was?
He was my mother's landlord when I was a very little girl. Him and his father were at my house when I was like a baby, 1 year old. They were at my house.
How were they to you? Were they good to you?
My dad knew the father, and Trump was an asshole. The father was like, came off like a nicer person. Like he had more, he spoke better. Donald was just a total douche to everybody. And his father would yell at him in front of other people. So that
always happens with the rich father makes it and then the spoiled son. That's always the deal.
It explains a lot why Donald became a malignant narcissist.
Yeah.
It's because of that reason. But he was in my home. Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going. Is there any connection between what you saw in your childhood and what you saw in your career with the gender discrepancies? Do you see any connection? So I guess you already said the sexual stuff right there. It's already
like fighting a lot, like a lot of fighting over. Like I think all the gender discrepancies growing up as a younger girl, as a teenager, is now what I'm fighting for as somebody who's an older person or an adult. I think that I've been fighting that my whole life. So I think I finally feel like I have a voice in the last 20 years opposed to the first 20 years. So yeah.
And I think it's cool because I feel like I did Opie's podcast, and he's like, Sue, do you think you'll see any change in your generation, like while you're still living? And I'm like, it doesn't, I have to do it because you do it for the girls who will go home after us. We're the generation that was born to do this. We're the ones, our moms aren't doing it. We have to do it. We're born at this time where we have to be the ones
we're the voices for the generation coming up now.
Yeah.
We're the examples for them, like our little group. I can name like a few different women that, yeah. that we could just, we're the voices.
How do you feel about your mother, and do you feel that you have more advantages than she did?
My mother's a very tough woman. She's 85, going to be 86 in March. She's a lot tougher than me. But I think if she was brought up now, I think she would have done a lot more with her life, but she did whatever she wanted. She was the black sheep of the family. So I love my mother, though we butt heads a lot, but we get along pretty well. She's pretty open.
Do you think some of the button the heads go, I'm just asking, you don't have to answer this if it's too personal, but do you think some of the button of the heads goes along with the fact that we're allowed to do more than they were? I'm finding that with a lot of my friends that we're allowed to do a lot more than they were allowed to do.
Yeah, my mother's a control freak. She wants me to be like a certain way or do something. But she never bothered me who I was dating or anything like that. But she was very, like, she when I got too sensitive, she would get mad at me.
Oh yeah, because you said she broke gender roles here. So did she assume kind of a more tough,
very masculine? Not masculine. That's not the right word. She did. Yeah, she made more money than my dad. She took control.
She wasn't having it.
She was overly, she overcompensated.
Yes. Okay.
Definitely overcompensated. So, and I'm more sensitive, much more sensitive, much more. But I'm an only child, so that's a lot of it.
How do you feel about marriage? I'm going to read it first, and then you can tell me. I think it's with the right person. It could be a great experience in addition to life. I was married and divorced. I don't regret it, nor do I feel sad that I did it. We just grew apart. But if I found the right person and it worked to make my life better, I don't have a problem with it. So you don't have any real strong feelings either way about it.
I need to be married. I never had children. I don't think you don't have children either.
No.
So it wasn't something I wanted in my life particularly. But I wouldn't mind having a partner that I can share and be with and love, but I don't need that. I like having it if it's there and it's right, but if it doesn't work, it could be a stress, and it can bring you down. Because
it can trap you. You can feel trapped for the rest of your life. Which brings me to my theory. I always think that you should get a prenup. Everybody should have a prenup. You should negotiate when you're in love, period. It should just be part of the business deal. Yeah, part of the business deal.
Do you want to get married? Do you want to get married?
I don't have any. I've never had any of the attachment to the marriage stuff. I would get married, but I would have a prenup. And regardless of even if I had no money or they had no money, I would have a prenup just saying that we would negotiate while we were in love. I would always do that because it would set parameters around
the boundary
where we were headed. Yeah, it was just, and I say that to younger girls and even my friends now when they were dating guys. I'm like, set the boundaries in the beginning. Set the boundaries in the beginning. Set the boundaries in the beginning. You can't not set them and then try to set them. It's going to be way harder. Set the boundaries in the beginning. It's going to be really difficult, but do it in the beginning. And they're like, it's so hard, but I like them. I'm like, do it, and stick to it.
What do you mean set them in the beginning? What do you the first?
Don't take any shit in the very beginning. No shit, no shit, not 1 ounce of shit, nothing.
No lateness, lateness is
nothing.
Consistent lateness is a terrible. I learned that every guy that's been late more than once or twice, especially in the first, I see what you get caught in traffic, but I dated someone who was he kept coming later and later. I'm like, and I just ended. I'm like, what is this? He goes, I'm like, no, you're not respecting my time. And that was the end of it.
But I don't know if I would have told you to end it. I would have told you to keep saying and keep setting the boundary, keep setting the boundary.
It didn't work. It didn't.
He wouldn't respect it. Then you gotta go.
But he was also a sociopath. That's a whole other story.
Yes. And 3 times it's a pattern, right? First time it's a coincidence. Second time it's a something.
Oh, it wasn't like 5 minutes. I'm talking about like he was supposed to come. I remember waiting for him. He was supposed to come at one time. He came 3 hours late. I was waiting for him at a restaurant. I was supposed to be after a show, so it was cold. I was in a restaurant. And waiting was lucky. One of the other girls was with me, but I was pissed off. He claimed something. His daughter it was all a lie. Anyway,
and that is true. They'll keep pushing. They'll push it. They'll see what they can get away with. It's just I don't know what it is, but I tell everybody, tell them no.
It's passive aggressive too. That's what it is. It's passive.
Yeah, but it's not even to do with us because we don't have a relationship with them yet. It has to do with something else. So that's why you have to it's like standing up to the unconscious, standing up to mother, whatever it is, whatever it's a mother issue, whatever. It's like don't bring it here. Don't bring it here. Don't bring it here. And if they go away, they go away. If they stay, they're you get them right in where they need to be.
Yeah, you have to put boundaries down right away. Yeah, I agree.
And then they respect you because they're not going to respect somebody. I say that to them. I almost feel and they do this in business too. I almost feel like they push the boundaries to say oh, don't let me disrespect you so I can fall in love with you. And same thing with business. Yes, I feel like they do it. Don't let me do this. Don't let me do this because
don't let me act badly. Don't let my bad behavior come out. Control it for me, almost.
And let me respect you. I'm going to push to see if if I can respect
I'm
you,
gonna,
if you're
I'm gonna push
worthy
your
of my love,
boundaries.
if you're
Right. You have to earn. It's like earning. I guess I do that too. I think in a way with men.
yeah.
I think we do it. I think I do it the opposite, maybe for different reasons. But yeah.
And people should earn your love. All right, what woman has the how do you see things changing from women today? Let me read it first. A man has definitely gotten paid more for the same job as I did and would see would see with my ex-husband. I think women are getting to have a voice and there's more equality than there was when I was growing up, but there's still a long way to go. There's absolutely still a long way to go. Because I just keep saying, just fucking pay us and stop sexually harassing us. Just fucking pay us and stop fucking attacking us. Period. That if I was gonna run for anything,
let me do my job. Yeah.
That's it. That's all I would say for every person and every woman working everywhere. I would say just give us the money that we deserve and fucking stop attacking us and stop baiting and switching us with these deals, agreeing on one thing and then bullying us into something else. Just let it out on the table. Just fucking pay us equally and stop attacking us. We'll be all set. This whole idea of blaming the victim, I'm like, fuck you. In colleges, they tell the girls to stop wearing a ponytail. I'm like, stop telling the girls to stop wearing a ponytail and start telling the boys to stop raping the girls. There you go. Period. They tell the girls not to wear ponytails, really? So the guys can't grab them. Yeah, they have whole seminars on it.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
So they're making girls feel fearful rather than teaching men or not to sexually abuse somebody. It's crazy.
And setting the boundaries and telling them to fucking stop it. What women inspired you the most in your life and why? I think women are getting to have a voice and there's more. Oh wait a minute, that's the same answer. What woman inspired? Yeah, that's the same answer.
Did it come out? Did I type it wrong? It might be in the wrong.
No, I want to know what woman inspired you, a specific woman.
My grandmother, she was the first activist I knew. My grandmother, Lillian Midwood, and she taught me about activism. She taught me to be an actress. She was an actress. She spoke up. She was in politics. She started PTA. She's one of the first people to start PTA back in the day. So I miss her. She would have been in the hundreds now, but she lived to 97 and she was like one tough cookie. And
doing that back in the day, imagine that.
I come from a family of politicians on both sides of the aisle. So yeah, I'm not the first one in my family.
I love it, Stacy. It makes me so happy. Hold on, I think I have a question here. I never did this before. Oh, it says, hello, beautiful. I don't know if that's you or me. Okay, so let's recap because it's almost time to go. It kicks you off, I think, after now. All right, so StacyPrussman.com?
No, Stacy Prussman for mayor. Prussman for mayor. Prussman for mayor. FOR mayor. MAYOR.com. There's a button to donate, volunteer, contact, whatever media contacts if you want. If you have a show that you want me to be on, I'll send it to my campaign manager and they take care of everything. Shout out to my campaign. I love them. Paul and Larry and Steve and Russ and Will. And I have a great team. And Brianna and David. We're growing. So if you want to volunteer or you have a special skill that you can bring to the campaign, let me know.
If you're a gig worker and you have no money and you have nothing else to do, you might as well do something worthwhile.
Yeah. Fundraising, you can make money fundraising. So yeah.
What about is there a way for anybody to see a debate?
I don't know if I'm doing a Zoom debate. I don't know if it's open to the public. So
okay.
But there'll definitely be ways for me to I'll post it. I'll post the debate if I'm allowed to show it. Yeah.
All right. Well, Stacy, I wish you the best of luck. I have good feelings about this. You're amazing.
So much. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to speak to you and see you and be a part of this Woman Crush Wednesday. It was wonderful. I loved every second of it.
My pleasure. You keep up the good work.
Thank you. Love you.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.